Welcome back, everyone, to Aaron's Opinion. And I'll just basically give you as much time as you want to tell your story. And I
Okay.
can help you do that by asking you the question I ask every guest from around the world. Who is Hope Walker? So walk through your story from the
Okay.
vision loss in the order that everything happened. And if I need clarification, I'll let you know. Take a deep breath and go ahead.
Okay. I I was a really super busy person. I kept myself very busy. I was working a job in healthcare insurance and I also did photography. My photography and the healthcare insurance kind of led me on some pretty amazing paths. I became lead at the company I was working at. So that also led to working a lot of hours. And I was also doing a real lot of photography between babies being born and maternity pictures. And then there was this big motorcycle event in the winter. And so I was like working 70 hours a week, 60 and 70 hours a week. Plus on my weekends, it was like, and that was just like Monday through Friday. Then on the weekends, I was doing the photography. And I was noticing that I was getting a lot of like really hard headaches, but they'd last like 5 seconds and then it'd be gone. And then it'd come back real quick, you know? Well, with that, I was getting like some aura and I was getting some um like dimness or too much brightness. It was like all over the place. And I was like, okay, my eyes are fatigued from the computer. My eyes are fatigued from looking through a lens so much, you know? And um then the whole week, like after I had the event, the big event, the whole week after the event, I had such a bad headache and it felt like my neck was like crooked. It felt cricked, like I slept wrong. But it got to the point where like even the cat walking past me was way too much and I would be, losing the contents of my stomach. And I couldn't handle light, I couldn't handle anything. It was just a really super bad migraine. And I knew I should go see some doctor, but I tried to leave the house and I'd just be sick. I would just like I couldn't handle moving around. So I just kept calling into work. And I did have a big trip where I was going to do a wedding in Jamaica. And so I had talked to my boss. I'm like, please, please don't take that trip away from me because I've already promised myself. It is something that I've got tickets and everything. And they're like, no, we already approved it. We'd love to see you in here. We're really super busy, but we're not going to take that away from you. And so I did end up going to Jamaica. The headache stuff kind of subsided a little bit, but then when I was on the airplane, it got really bad. Like my neck, I couldn't straighten it, and my vision was really messed up. And I kind of said something to my friend that was traveling with me, and he checked and he's like, oh, I can't find any aspirin or anything in my bag. And so like I just kind of let that be. We landed. Yeah, still had the headache, still had the crick neck, and I was like, okay, well, I'm fine. I just after I get some rest, everything will be fine. And so we were staying at a lodge in Beverly, and the owner came and picked us up. I'd known him for 9 years prior. and I had been going to that same lodge for 9 years prior. And we get there, get settled in, and some friends are like, "Hey, let's go do this." So we went and watched a football game, and I still had that headache. I still had the eye stuff. I couldn't tell if things were blurry or not, and if I tried to take a picture or whatever. And I kept hydrating, like drinking lots and lots and lots of water. And so after the football game, just kind of went back to the lodge and hung out and talked and unpacked and got things ready. But I just had that headache, so I asked my friend that had traveled with me if he would give me a massage and try and loosen that up. And he did. He tried, but nothing was helping. I did take some aspirin at that point and later went to sleep. When I woke up, I got up, I started doing my hair, and I'm like, wow, I can't really see my hair. And I had put sunscreen on because in the mornings I usually go out on the deck. So I put sunscreen on my face, and oh gosh, I got sunscreen in my eye. I started feeling like a bunch of picking in my eye. And then it was in the left eye only, but then it did start in the right eye too. And I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, I got sunscreen in there and it's really bothering my eyes. So I went into the bathroom, splashed my face a ton with water. I tried to like rinse it out. And then I thought, well, great. What if something's wrong with this water? So I got a towel and just kind of held it over my eyes. And my friend was on the phone. His name is Sam, by the way. He was on the phone telling his friend happy birthday. And he was taking such a long time. And I got crabby. Like, why is this taking so long? We're here in Jamaica. Let's start making our plan. Leave what you got going on aside, And I wanted him to check and see if there was something wrong with my eyes. So anyways, he gets off the phone. I didn't get crabby at him. It was just like in my mind crabby kind of thing. And he got off the phone, checked my eyes. He's like, nope, everything's fine. So we leave, and I tell him, well, I'm feeling not right. I go like, it's not numbness. Like, I can move everything, but it just feels weird. It doesn't feel right. And if I drop this water bottle, because it was my left side that was being affected, I said, if I drop this water bottle, we should go in. And he goes, go in where? And I said, go in to be seen by a doctor. And he goes, well, like, do you mean later sometime, or do you mean like emergently, like call 911? And I said, well, if I drop the bottle, I'm probably having a stroke. And then I dropped the bottle. And then I said, no, that was just weird. And I pick up the bottle and then I dropped it again. I said, nope, that's just weird again. I'm just going to carry it in my right hand. Because to me, I thought you had to have every symptom that's on that stroke list. I thought that if you weren't having all of the symptoms, that you could have a stroke, not that you were having one stroke, So we continued on, met with the bride and groom that I was going to be taking photos for, got the dress alterations getting finished, and took care of a few things uptown. And everybody kept saying, why do you keep walking in the street? In Jamaica, downtown Ocho Rios is super busy. So you don't want to be like wandering off into the street. And I'm like, am I in the street? Like, so I just asked, could somebody hold my hand of the group that I was with? And somebody held my hand, and they kind of kept me from wandering off into the street. We got back home. Friend Alonzo had taken the trip all the way back to Beverly Lodge with us to make sure that we got to the right place, because he knew I wasn't feeling well. And then when it was time to go to bed and the lights were all out, I got up to go to the bathroom and I was like, oh my gosh, like the whole world was tilted. I couldn't walk. I couldn't get my ankles. They were all like wobbly, like, and literally they were wobbling back and forth. And so I tried to get up and it was like my legs were rubber and they were bending. And I had no clue what was going on because it was both legs. And so I said, Sam, we have to go. I need to see a doctor. I need a hospital. And I was scared. And he goes, okay. And like when you're in Jamaica in Beverly, everybody, if you get into a taxi with somebody, they hand you their business card. So he's got this pile of business cards because we had taken several taxis in that short period of time. And he starts calling, and of all the taxi cab drivers, someone named 50 Cent picks up the phone and he said, yeah, I can come and get you and bring you to the hospital. And he did. He came and he was there fairly quickly, brought us to the hospital. Um, they they had me take a seat. They had me pay like an admission or some fee. I'm not even sure what that was. And then I took a seat and Sam had to go use the bathroom and a child needed to have a seat. There was a lady there with several children. And so I got up, but I couldn't walk. I could just stand at this point. So Sam walks me over to the desk so I have something to hang on to. And the doctor says, ma'am, you need to go have a seat. And I kind of stuttered that I couldn't. And he goes, what do you mean you can't? And I said, I can't walk. And he goes, why can't you walk? And I said, I don't know. That's why I'm here. And so the doctor gets a wheelchair, sets me down, takes my blood pressure, and admits me, but they don't really know at this point what's going on. I ended up leaving the hospital. I would, you're not thinking right. And I was just not sure how to take things. Like they told Sam he had to go to Kingston and pay up front for the CT scan. They said there's no CT scan anywhere on the island at a hospital that is working, so you have to go to a private place. And the closest private one was Kingston, but they wouldn't be open until the morning. So they told Sam to go pay up front and then bring the receipt back, which, by the way, is 1 or 2 hours away. And he was going to be going by taxi. And so that was one of the things that worried me. Like, why don't I just go with him, you know? And so I asked if I could just go with, and she goes, well, that's not really advisable because something could happen. And I said, well, I don't think I can stay here. And I said, if you don't let me go, I'm going to take the IV out myself, and I'm going to leave, and whatever. And so she had me sign a paper, and she gave the orders still to Sam to take me to get the CT scan. And she said, if anything happened, I could return, and they would still take me back. They don't turn away patients. So we went back to Beverly Lodge, and I laid there and I did fall asleep. And in the morning, we contacted the owner of Beverly Lodge and said, could you taxi us over to this place in Kingston that I had a medical emergency in the night and they wanted me to get a CT scan. So he did. He took off work and he taxied me over there, and he waited around, and I got everything taken care of. And it's so interesting because I paid $160 for this CT scan. I had to pay up front, but that was the price of the scan and the person reading it and the appointment. All that was like totally, and we walked away with the report. Unbeknownst to me, the kind of scar that's on my brain would not show up on a CT scan. It would take an MRI to show up. I had a stroke from, well, I don't know if they call it a stroke. I kind of think they do, or a CVI. But basically, it was a supplication of blood flow because of swelling from the severe headache. And it took quite a while for that to get diagnosed. Like, migraine headaches do cause strokes, and usually the people that get them have aura and all the things that I had going on. But that in itself is kind of a rare thing. And then I think I had several people tell me that where it happened in my brain is also like a lot of people don't survive that area, because it controls your five senses, and swallowing and all that could have been majorly an issue. But I ended up staying in Jamaica. I contacted my doctor after the CT, and I told him, everything on the CT scan showed it was fine. And he said, we're not out of the woods yet. And he just kind of talked to me. And he called me every single day, every day, to check up on me. I think he called 2 or 3 times as well, just to make sure. But he didn't want me to get on a flight back in case it was a certain kind of a stroke. Even though it didn't show up on the CT, he said this kind of stroke wouldn't show up unless it was an MRI. And he didn't, if I would have gotten onto a plane, the altitude could have caused a lot more problems too. So I ended up staying in Jamaica without trained medical care for 8 days. But the community was kind of beautiful. I had been going there for 9 years, and a lot of people kind of got to know me in that 9 years. I had so many people come in and just come right into the apartment I was renting and cook for me. I had all my friends calling and checking on me. Do you need anything? Do you need us to get groceries? Do you need this or that? And we're talking about people that are pretty poor. So, sorry about that. So it was kind of, it was kind of I don't know, something that's always going to stay with me, to have people that, are struggling to survive on their own, that are going to pick up everything and make sure I'm okay, and make sure I have food and cook for me, and not expect a single thing in return. 8 days later, I got back to Minnesota. My doctor had already scheduled an appointment for first thing in the morning for a MRI to happen. And I got the MRI, and I couldn't really see. But all these places that I was going to, I had been there so many times. Like, these are places I used to work. I used to work for the hospital that he sent me to, and I had been, on that road and everything. So I had this tiny little pinhole, but it was super blurry of vision, and it was black and white at that time. And I drove there, and I parked literally in the middle of the parking lot. And some lady said something like, aren't you going to move your vehicle closer to the parking spot? And I go, what do you mean? And she goes, well, you're 10 feet away from the wall. And so I get in my truck and I moved it, but apparently I didn't move it very far, maybe a couple inches. And she said something to me again. She's like, are you okay? And I said, well, I don't know where the wall is. I don't want to hit it. And she goes, well, okay, roll down your window. And mind you, it was winter. Roll down your window and I'll tell you how far to pull up. So I get in and I pull up and she tells me, and I was like, wow. So um, I went into my appointment. I had my MRI. I got home. I hadn't heard back yet from the doctor other than we need to talk, I think is what my message was. And it was just a voicemail. I was tired. I went right to bed. Next day, I actually went to work, and I got to work and I got to my desk and I couldn't believe, like, why was I late when I left so early? Um, but I was driving super slow because I was super dizzy, and I didn't know I was driving slow because I was super dizzy. So I get to my desk. I'm all out of breath. I'm exhausted. And I get to my desk and I put my fingers on my keyboard, and my brain will not tell my fingers how to move. And I started crying. And I told Google to call my doctor. And by this time, I mean, like, I was calling his actual home phone number, like, or his cell phone or whatever, and he was answering. And I was crying, and he goes, "What's going on?" And I said, I'm trying to use the keyboard and I don't know how. And he goes, "What's going on? What do you mean?" And I said, like, my fingers are on the spots. I think they're on the spots, but they won't type. And he goes, "Okay, well, I think I have to tell you over the phone. You have aphasia, and you need to come in and you need to leave work." And so he goes, "Whenever you get here, I'm going to see you." So, and he said, "Don't drive." And I'm thinking, oh, great. How am I going to even do this? Everybody I know is at work. Um, so I told my boss, and I was just like crying. And I told my boss what he said, and he goes, "Nope, just don't worry about it. Just go home and get yourself a ride to the, clinic." He goes, "If you need me to, I'll call a taxi for you." So I did go into the doctor. The doctor explained everything. He sent me to get a bunch of tests done. And they, by Friday that week, I ended up admitted to the hospital, um, just out of exhaustion. It made all the symptoms worse. I was stuttering. I couldn't remember anything. And so that was kind of what happened as far as like step by step for that. Fast forward, I learned I didn't know how to walk backwards. I didn't know the alphabet. I didn't know how to write a sentence, like straight across the paper. I couldn't count to 100. I couldn't do the alphabet forward or backwards. I couldn't add. Oh my gosh, it was like so much. And every test that they did, I just ended up crying because I didn't know that I didn't know. So I ended up, having all this therapy prescribed, and it was so exhausting. We were having blizzard after blizzard, and it was impossible to keep up. I got a letter from the county that said, if you don't get your sidewalk plowed, we're going to charge you $60 an hour. It was just horrible. And
That's so I was kind of waiting, Hope. I was waiting for a moment to kind of jump in, a good moment. That's kind of cute. There's some kind of twisted dark humor there. Hey, you don't if you don't plow your own snow fast, so we're just gonna keep stealing from you, and we're gonna keep charging you until you make your own snow go away. That's darkly hysterical because I live in Florida now.
oh,
So haha, I don't have to deal with snow. That's for you people up in the north. I don't know why I don't know why people live up there.
me
I
either.
hope I first of all, you're doing You're doing a magnificent job. In case you were wondering if this is what I wanted, absolutely it is. I would. It's now. I have a question.
Okay.
Are you able to share with me a more detailed timeline for the days and months and year that these different things happen? You kind of dove into the deep end. I didn't want to stop you because I know you're a little nervous, but you dove into the deep end without really explaining what year this happened or providing any timeline. Are you able to provide a calendar timeline for when all of these things happen?
Yeah. The I landed February 8th of 2019.
Okay. So all of these things happened in 2019.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, now let's go back to something else too. You've dove in so deeply. You didn't usually people start kind of on the outer shell and peel back the layers a little bit more. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of construction work. I'm gonna have to peel a little bit here. So I'm 31 years old. How old are you, by the way? Just to put it into perspective, so people can understand.
Oh, okay. I'm 52. I
Okay.
was 49 at the time.
Okay, at the time that this happened, you were 49 years old. Okay, that's very important. Now, you said you
Correct.
landed in February of 2019. Where did you land? Are you able to tell me where you landed?
I landed in Jamaica February of
Okay,
2019.
so everything starts in February 2019. Okay, all right.
Correct.
Very good, very good. Now, moving forward from here, I have a very strong baseline for understanding how all of these things happened now, and you did a really, really tremendous job. Now, here's where we're gonna get in. This is where it gets a little interesting. You have about 32. You have 32 minutes.
Okay.
I like to keep these episodes to an hour. What I would like you to do is to transition, if you are able and want, transition to the other stuff that you told me about before I pushed record. The other stuff that happened
Okay.
after all. So try to see we're building a timeline here. So try to push into that direction. Go ahead.
Sure.
Sure, give
Yep.
it a try. Uh huh.
Yep. So I had all these appointments that I had to take care of, and the buses were getting me to the appointments late. It was vision therapy. I was paying $100 for vision therapy and missing my appointments. A friend of mine asked me, hey, until I get back on my feet, could I stay in your basement and rent free, but I'll take you with your vehicle to all of your appointments.
So are you able to tell me what year and month this friend
Yep.
approached you?
That was March of 2019 that he
Okay.
approached me, and it
Who's
all came
who's so let's rip the band-aid here. So who's he?
Blake.
Okay, okay, correct. Correct. We'll go with
Okay.
okay, so Blake.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes.
Blake approached
Blake
you.
contacted me by sending me a message
By the
or
way, how did
calling.
if I were interviewing you in any sense, I would ask you, are you able to tell me how you met Blake in the first place?
Oh my gosh, I knew Blake for 6 years. My initial meeting of Blake was at a park nearby where I lived, and I was going through some medical stuff where I was in a lot of pain, and my pain medicine wore off while I was on a walk. And he offered to give me a ride home in his Lamborghini. And I was like, yes, thank you. Normally I wouldn't have, because I did not know this person, but my pain medicine wore off when I was on a walk, and it was really dumb to take a walk, but when I left, I wasn't in pain because of my medicine. Yeah, and I met his daughter.
All
I'm
right. So let me, as we say, let me lead you. Let me help you out. So, Blake in March of 2019, Blake comes up to you, says, "Hey, Hope, can I stay in your basement?" Right?
yeah,
Is that what happened? Okay.
yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, I totally was like, this is great because I can't take care of my yard. I can still live here and I can go to all my therapy and I don't have to bother anybody with having to drive me around. And so I agreed to it. And by the way, long-term disability was really raking me through the coals and they put my money on hold because I could not fill out my paperwork. And they told me I had to find somebody myself to do that. And I didn't know anybody to, I only have one family member that lived within 45 minutes of my house. And like I said, we were getting blizzards constantly. So I asked him as soon as he got there, could you just take care of this paperwork? Could you fill out my paperwork? Sure, no problem. Where's all your information? They need a copy of your driver's license, your birth certificate. They need your address. They need your mom's maiden name. They needed everything. And guess what? I walked him over to the file cabinet where all of my papers were, and I said, it's all right here. Please help me. And he did. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, the name Blake is not his real name. And he has several victims of financial fraud, among other things. But he has several victims. And he was a professional at identity theft. So while he was there helping me, he was helping himself. He had a list of credit cards that the police later found of like it was listed in timeline of which credit card to start with, how many days to wait, all this stuff it was crazy. So within 45 days, he had taken out 19 credit cards. And because I couldn't read my mail, I had no clue that these credit cards were coming in my name. He was taking care of all the mail. And he was actually, volunteered to take care of my bills for me. Isn't he just sweet? So I thought that I had nothing to worry about. I thought my friend was so great taking care of all this stuff for me. But I didn't know he was taking from one credit card and paying the other somehow. He was taking out of my my account. It's not like he was paying anything with his money. He was getting loans and such, and he was, you know, helping himself actually is what he was doing, but paying just enough so that he was buying time so that no phone call came in apparently. When I would get done with therapy, he would take my phone away from me and tell me I needed to rest, that's what I needed to do. So he was taking my phone so I didn't get bothered. Which I now know is how he was able to get things approved. I guess they send you a text or they call, I don't know. They must text. But if he because of my mental status afterwards too, if you get me really overwhelmed, I would just stutter. And the best case scenario was to tell me one step at a time things to do. And so if he got really angry with me, he'd make sure I was overwhelmed. He might drive like really fast in traffic and weaving, and I would get like really super dizzy and have too much stimulus. And then I wouldn't be able to talk, and I don't know exactly everything. But I do remember, like, he would get me super overwhelmed and then tell me step by step and hand me the phone. So, I mean, some of it I I don't even understand. I can't, there's a lot of things I really can't answer, because I think that he really knew really well what he was doing. And, the fact that he left everything laying around, knowing that I couldn't really, make out what things said, um, for very long. It just was like, I don't know. I, and also I trusted this person. I thought this was a friend. I thought that everything was fine. And I kind of thought that I was just, all I had to worry about was taking care of getting myself better at this point. And there were little signs. There were, he would he tried to tell me that I needed a different car, and that at first he was telling me that he could get me a better car, if I just traded in my car. And I'm like, well, I can't even drive my car right now, and my car was always fine, so I'm happy with it. When I get better, I'm going to be needing it to take more photos. I need to have four-wheel drive for what I was doing. And it had it had all-wheel drive. Anyways, I thought everything was fine. And suddenly my car breaks down, and he told me it was, the car was no longer going to work. So I had it towed, and he got really super mad at me that I didn't tow it to his friend. And I mean, there were signs that should have maybe told me that it doesn't make sense that this man is so upset over my belongings and what I'm doing with my stuff. But on the other hand, I was so freshly, had just had the brain injury. So reasoning wasn't anything that I could handle.
And that's what makes this so evil. I mean, this is, unfortunately, it sounds, in my opinion, and this is an opinion show, this is not a fact show. In other words, we're sharing our opinions about experiences, although I know that everything you've said is factual. There's no doubt in my mind about it.
Mm-hmm.
But by definition, this is an opinion show. And in my opinion, this character um, that you encountered um, was definitely a career criminal for sure.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm going to give out my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
My academic background is in the field of international affairs. I am not a doctor. I am not a therapist. So don't call me up for therapy. But because I am not qualified, nor would I ever be unethical enough to give you therapy. But let me tell you, in my opinion, this is 10 times over not your fault. Absolutely not your fault for any. I'm a man. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy's a criminal. Quite frankly, he. It's hard to say. He probably would have done it regardless. Quite frankly, this is the sick part about this, is if you hadn't had the TBI, he might have done something. He might have been able to take advantage of you even more if you had been in a mental state. So it's a blessing, in my opinion. It's actually a blessing from God. And hear me out on this, that you actually had the TBI, in the sense and in the way that he was only able to, do the damage that he was able to do. In other words, if you had been fully cognitive, fully functioning, he might have done even worse. It sounds like this person is so evil, they would go all the way, and this is the psychology of some of these people, these, sociopath, psychopath type of people. That's the definition. It's exactly the definition. Having no empathy, no empathy, not able to understand the feelings of other people. And this is a truly a terrifying individual. So I would have to I would just have to say this is absolutely not your fault. By no, I mean, don't let anyone tell you, oh well, you should have done it differently. Well, no, you couldn't have, and unfortunately, there was probably nothing you could do about it actually at that time. If that makes does that make any sense to you or not at all? What do you think?
No, I know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
like the speeding in traffic and overwhelming me. Like, if he wouldn't have been able to overwhelm me, what would he have done
Yeah, he might
to
have. You
get
know
the
what? He might
same
have. I mean, I'm pretty
outcome?
convinced that someone this evil, if you had been fully cognitive, he would have crashed the car on purpose and then committed insurance fraud.
Yeah.
Because I mean, why not, right? If you're that much of a criminal, why don't you do the insurance fraud, take the lady's money, wreck her car, buy her a new car, force her out, take the phone away? You know, this is how their minds work. You know, there's all sorts of videos all over YouTube. I'm not going to name drop where they explain all these how these things work. And unfortunately, when someone else's mind goes to this level, there's nothing you can do about it. They are a lost soul. They are a lost soul. What they forget in doing this is that karma's a bitch, and karma will catch up. The karma of taking advantage of someone with a injury medical crisis like that is, I mean, you got to be low. You got to be really you got to be a serious criminal to be willing to do that to someone else. Um,
Well, and it was so
yeah,
surprising because I met his family, or people that said they were his family. I met
yeah,
his
yeah,
people that said they were his kids, and then I find out afterwards, oh no, he wasn't really the father of my children. What? His name wasn't really blah blah blah. So,
hmm
I mean, I knew him for 6 years
right, right. So I want to,
in a fictitious world.
yeah, yeah, you managed to. This is a career criminal. This is how they. This is how these sociopathic people work. It's how they do it. They turn off their feelings in their brain. I mean, it sounds like this guy. I mean, quite frankly, this guy is so crazy. Like medically speaking, this criminal probably has like 30 different things wrong with their brain. You know, hell with your brain. I
Right.
want to put him in a hospital. See what's going on in his mind. You know, I mean, God Almighty. So how did you ever? And people are going to wonder, how did you ever get out of this mess? That's the exciting
Oh
part.
my goodness. You want to talk about like when the phone calls started coming in from credit card companies, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I went on to, with my sister's help, I went on to like one of the credit companies that they kind of tell you what all you have for credit cards. And my sister, I started crying, and she actually got in the car and drove there that night to help me because she knew I was just like, there was no way. And I was like, Roz, I think it's somewhere around $60,000. And she's like, oh my God. So she comes, and after she's done sorting, we've come up with $120,000.
Oh my God.
And I'm like devastated, like, oh my God, this is going to be my entire lifetime. Like, I don't even have a 401k to cover this, because if it was 60,000, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to be screwed for the rest of my life, but at least I
Yeah.
can pay it.
Right.
I didn't know what
Yeah.
was
I
going to
mean,
happen.
in the end, it's not going to, if things go as planned, if certain things happen, obviously you are now,
Yeah,
I'm
credit
giving out
card
my
companies.
opinion. I mean, I'm giving out my
Yeah,
opinion. Obviously, the state wherever you're living is going to get basically got hit. Is going to get swacked, and you're going to end up getting owed that amount back. You're going to get it back. I mean, it's clearly not your fault. You're going
well,
to
what
get some. Yeah.
happened was that the credit card companies did their investigation, and somewhere around $70,000 was written off as fraud. And then there was a couple of companies that were like, this is like right on that line. So we're not going to count it as fraud or something like that. And, the police, I had been interviewed daily for 2 weeks. They came in, they got all this evidence, like piles and piles of evidence from the stuff that he had left behind, tons of paperwork. Um,
Oh, so he
And,
didn't even. But so this criminal is so crazy. He couldn't even clean up after his
you
crime. He
know,
didn't.
I think what happened was he had told me he was going to go collect money and then be back, and he asked me to buy tickets to go to Jamaica, which is really super weird. And I said, "Well, why don't you take care of that when we get back? Because, my eyes, I don't want to try and do that. It was hurting." Um, and and so he left and he took every penny out of my bank account at the airport. And
Oh my god.
I got a message on my phone. And by this time, therapy had taught me like talk back and some things. So I was like, wait, what's going on? So I sent a voice message to him saying, what did you do? you know? So I don't think he meant to stay gone at that point yet. I think he was close, but I think he still was going to come back and clean out what was left. But I hadn't taken the oh, what is that called? Um I hadn't taken out the waste that's paper. um Recycling. I hadn't taken the recycling down. So all of that stuff, there were some bills that were in there. There was tons of evidence, but it was a little bit worky to find for them to find some of it. Like that list was way down in between receipts of um of him going to casinos. You know, that list was, a little bit
Oh
on
dear
the hidden
God.
side.
Oh dear God. This guy was crazy. This is a serious career. So he what?
And all the stuff
Did,
that
did
he
you?
took,
I
I
mean,
found out.
Did you ever take a moment in your life to say like, what the hell? Like
Yeah.
serious? Like
Like,
so he would steal from you. I guess. I guess he had like some sort of. Well, he has a lot of problems, but I guess one of them was that he had probably had a gambling addiction, and it would.
I yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, that's
It
what it sounds like.
like so my sister had worked for um uh some investigations company that I probably shouldn't even say. But my sister had worked for investigations, and she started asking all these credit card places what he bought. And it was stuff like coins and high-end electronics that you could turn around and sell right away and stuff like that. Two um two cell phones,
Right.
a really nice computer system,
So I
all
mean,
the
so he then he
security
would buy. So then
systems.
he would buy. Basically, he would buy shit with your money. So he would steal from you, buy shit, then sell it, then do it again. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. This is a
Yeah,
serious criminal. I mean, this is
yeah,
criminal behavior. I mean, this is. Oof, I haven't heard. I mean, I've heard crazy stuff. This is up
yeah,
there. This is
yeah.
this. We have about 10 minutes left. I mean, this all take about takes the this takes the cake. I haven't. I mean, I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're speaking up. I haven't heard a story this bad, and I've heard bad stories. This is the worst story I've ever heard on this show. I'm very honored to be able to help you to share the knowledge and share the facts. So, are you able? And obviously, you understand why I keep phrasing the question that way. Are you able to share with me what is happening today, as in now at this moment? Like, what's the
Oh,
situation now?
sure.
And then we'll kind of gracefully, pull back and I'll
Okay.
let you ask some questions and stuff like
So,
that.
this stuff happened in 2019. Um, he still has not been found. Um,
Yeah, so your opinion is at the moment he am I allowed to ask is he at large or what is
yeah,
his
yeah, the police are still looking for him. They have a warrant out for him in all 50 states. They do not believe that he is in the United States.
Oh
They
my
are, they're pretty sure he's in another country. I think
god.
Bangkok came up or something like
Oh
that. I don't know
no.
why.
And let me guess. He fled he basically fled the country, and he probably, being the criminal he is, looked up a country that doesn't have extradition. So he probably moved himself to a country where he can't be, where they
Mhm.
can't fish his ass back out. Probably.
Yeah.
Mm.
But the interesting thing is, I was telling you I was in vision therapy.
Yeah.
I worried so much because he took my vision. I had these therapy glasses that I had to put that help you relearn some stuff with your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And he took them with. And he
Ah.
had been telling me that some friend of his was blind from a head injury. And so he was asking me so many questions and
I have a
oh,
question. Just sorry, a question
yeah.
just popped up on the screen, basically in my mind. A big flashing question. Um, how many other blind people has this clown taken advantage of?
Well, that I don't really know.
Yeah.
I know he has a lot of victims, but of course they won't give that away because then, they're vulnerable adults comes into play
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So I don't really know that, but it's it's been on the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It has really worried me that like I have this story and I hope that somebody else down the road doesn't end up in the same situation because
So
to
what do
think
blind?
that
Thank you. So I'm glad it's a great segue. What do blind men and women need to do to avoid this situation? Again, I need to stress none of what happened to you is your fault. I cannot stress that enough. But in general, what do blind people need to do to avoid crazy criminals like this?
well, you have to have somebody that you trust, and it can't be a friend. It needs to be a family,
Yeah.
and probably go to like 4 or 5 family members and say, would you trust this person with your money? Would you trust
Right.
this person with
Right.
your,
So that's
because
why, right.
otherwise
So
you might
that's
want
why
to go to
blind
a
people
social worker.
need, right. That's why you need to, and this goes on another topic too, why blind people need to not get involved in conservatorships and guardianships, and why you need to keep the state out. The problem though is that then you need to find a family member who you can trust. So
Yeah.
this is all really, well, that's kind of where, I mean, I think that really, I mean, I think you did a demonstrated to me that today you are more than competent. You did a absolutely magnificent interview. Given the severity of that situation, you really rose to the occasion, really beautifully. Um, just to lighten it up, uh, because I mean, you can't get much lower than what that guy did to you. Um, so I mean, think of it this way. I mean, you'll never meet someone worse than that. I mean, God Almighty. Some
Wow.
people's children, I tell you. So some people, I don't know how they do it. Yeah, it's very fascinating. So we'll definitely be praying for you and keeping our eyes and ears open and stuff like that for advancements in all this. But I'm sure you have questions for me in the remaining time. As I like to say, let's just wrap it up here, and let me say, if you can, yeah, let's close out within about 6 minutes. Good amount of time today. That was a really rich, a really serious episode. So Hope, if you can ask me, Aaron Richmond, Aaron's opinion, only one question to make me sweat to see if I'm worth my salt as a podcaster. What do you really want to know about me?
About you?
If you can
Um,
ask me only one question, yeah. Mm-hmm.
One question would be, what was the the story that you heard that made you want to do what you're doing?
Mm. I was listening. I'm a teacher, and I've been teaching for 7 years online. And I was listening to a lot of podcasts in the blindness community, and they were all really good, but they just were not open enough to having guests come in and talk about their experiences from all over the world. And things like that. So I'm really determined here at Aaron's Opinion to give you and many others from all over the world the privilege and honor of sharing your opinions and facts and your life story. So really, it was that I was listening to a lot of other people, but I wanted to be a guest on their show, and they said, no, we don't care about you. No, we're just too big, just too busy, just get lost. That type of attitude, and I don't allow that. So this is the podcast where people are welcome, and I'm determined to make that dream come true. And that's overall, why I'm doing this, why I love talking, why I love educating, why I love interviewing. This is what I love to do every single day of my life. So that's why. The why, what episode pushed me over the edge? I don't know, but that's the why. And that's a beautiful
Okay.
question. Yeah.
Okay.
If someone ever wants to get in touch with you about this episode, or hey, someone wants to contact you, are they able to do that? And would you like to share any information how you could be contacted in the future?
Um, they would have to do that through you, I think. That would be
Okay.
best if that's okay with you.
That is okay with me.
Okay.
So you guys can, of course, contact me how you guys know how by replying, commenting below in the video or the podcast, and I go, I explain all of that in the recording anyway. So, Hope, I wish you the very best of luck in your life. Keep doing
Thank
great.
you.
God bless you for sharing your story. Sorry that happened, but as I said, karma's a coming. Karma's a bitch.
Right?
It'll catch up with him. Eventually, he will make a mistake. Eventually, they all do. And then the whole story will come toppling right over. So
Hmm.
it's only a matter of time. But you did a magnificent job. Thanks so much, everyone. Stay safe out there, and we will see you next time. Hope, you're forever welcome here on Aaron's Opinion. All right.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe out there, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Same place, same time, same place next week, right here on Aaron's Opinion. Thank you so much, everyone. And as I say on the podcast, help one person today, help 1 million people tomorrow.